So I hear that you want to get the cheapest aircraft policy that you can possibly buy. Well, it's Caleb here from Air 101, and we're going to talk about the most basic coverage that you need so that you will be able to legally fly your aircraft in Canada. So what is the most basic coverage that you can purchase so you can fly your aircraft legally in Canada? Before we answer that, make sure that you stay to the end of this video, because at that point I'm going to tell you why it's so important that you know what this coverage is, and I'm also going to talk about, by only having this coverage, how it could affect you in the event of a loss. The cheapest coverage that you can purchase for your aircraft in Canada is liability only. This will give you third-party liability so that you can meet Transport Canada's regulations and fly your aircraft in Canada. And in most cases will also give you passenger coverage as well. Third-party liability is commonly known as PL and PD coverage, personal liability and property damage coverage. What this means is, let's say one day you are flying your aircraft and right before you land your aircraft you have an engine failure and you end up hitting the top of a building just before the runway. You managed to survive the accident, but in the process of hitting the top of the house, some of the shingles fell off the roof and ended up hitting somebody that was walking by. Well, in this case, a damaged roof would most likely be covered under the property damage section of the policy. And if the person that got hit by the roof shingle ended up suing you, then the personal liability section part of the policy would most likely cover this part of the loss. If you cause third-party injury or property damage, this is where this third-party liability would most likely cover you in the event of a loss. Well, congrats, you made it through the boring details part of this video and have finally made it to the most important part of this video, so thank you for sticking around. Now that you understand that you need to legally have third-party liability to be able to fly your aircraft in Canada and what this third-party liability means and covers, and now I want to answer what you should really know about this coverage and how it can actually benefit you in the event of a loss. And then I want to discuss why you should buy all risk flight and ground coverage instead of just liability only. Number one, liability only gives you defense costs. When you look into a policy, you most likely will see a section called defense, settlement, and supplementary payments. In this section, the insurance company states that they will pay certain expenses beyond the limits of the aircraft liability insurance. These expenses include legal defense costs. This is huge and is so important that you know this. Without aircraft liability insurance, an aircraft owner would be responsible for all such defense costs. So what this really means is, if you have purchased a $1 million liability limit and you go and have an accident and an individual sues you for $1 million, the insurance company, if they need to pay out this loss of $1 million, they will also most likely cover your legal expenses on top of the $1 million. This is awesome because in the event of a loss, what this means is that the insurance company has your back. And remember, even the most minor incident could run up a substantial legal expense. So when you buy liability, you really do get a great coverage. Number two, buy more than just liability only coverage. As an aircraft owner, you should buy all risk flight and ground coverage, not just liability only. So what this means is you should buy the third-party liability so that you can once again legally fly your aircraft in Canada, but you should also buy hull coverage damage for your aircraft so that in the event of a loss, the insurance company will either fix your aircraft or they will cut you a check less the deductible to replace your aircraft. A lot of people want to buy liability only because it's so cheap, but many people don't realize that all risk flight and ground coverage is not that expensive either. A lot of pilots buy liability only, and when I'm talking to them on the phone, they say they don't need full all risk flight and ground coverage because they say if they end up crashing the aircraft, they're just going to die anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they purchase the full coverage. I really want to talk about this for a second. First of all, with regards to crashing the aircraft and dying in an accident, here's the thing, the majority of accidents that I've either dealt with or heard, in most cases, the pilot as well as the passengers end up surviving. And this is where it's nice if you have purchased all risk flight and ground coverage because you just had an extremely traumatic event. And this is where the insurance company will go and get the aircraft, take care of the recovery costs, etc. And here's the second thing that we should all think about as pilots. What if we have family, a spouse, children? If we do unfortunately pass away in an accident, we would want to make sure that our family has been looked after. By having the aviation insurance company look after everything, get the aircraft, take care of recovery costs, etc. When you buy liability only, you don't get coverages such as forced landing coverage, which means then your family will end up having to look after getting the aircraft, which can be a very difficult process. So if you really just want to buy liability only for your aircraft just to save a little bit of money, here's a small recommendation I want to give you. You should put aside a fund for your family so that they can use this to go get the aircraft in the event of an accident.
Plan out roughly how much it will cost to recover the aircraft. Write down a list of companies that can actually recover the aircraft. Let them always know exactly where you're flying your aircraft, so that they know where they might have to go get the aircraft if there is an accident. Write down which mechanics that can fix the aircraft. Or if the aircraft can't be fixed, write down the companies that will buy the aircraft for salvage, etc.
See, doesn't that sound like way too much work? Well, this is why you should buy all risk flight and ground coverage. It truly is the best coverage that you can buy, and it will put your family at ease knowing that the aircraft insurance company will look after all the details in the event that an accident happens. That is why I personally will not fly an aircraft that does not have all risk flight and ground coverage on it. If you want to know more about the best coverage, all risk flight and ground coverage that you can purchase, you should watch this video right here. Pilots, stay safe, have fun flying, and I hope that you have learned what you need so that you can legally fly your aircraft in Canada. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.